our formulas are very expensive, and that's because we invest in the ingredients. And we will always choose an ingredient that is better for your skin versus either doing nothing for your skin or being harmful for your skin. And that is almost always a more expensive choice to make as a brand. But we believe that by investing in those ingredients, we then will in turn have that repeat purchase and that loyalty from our consumer. Because when you're using a product with jojoba esters and shea butter and licorice root extract and hyaluronic acid, you are going to have that plumping and that natural hydration that your skin loves.
Welcome to Care More, Be Better, a podcast for people like you who care about the social impact of conscious companies and everyday heroes. Hear inspiring stories from those who put people and planet before profit and personal gain. You'll learn how you can make a difference, vote with your dollars, and get involved today. Here's your host, Corinna Bellizzi.
Welcome to Care More, Be Better, a podcast for people like you who care about the future and our collective well-being on Earth. I'm Corinna Bellizzi, a sustainability advocate, podcaster, and PhD student at Prescott College, where I'm studying at the intersection of regenerative systems, communication, and social change. Through this show, I connect you with the change makers, thinkers, and everyday heroes who challenge us to live more regeneratively, to care more, and to be better. Today, we're exploring how beauty can be a force for regeneration, not just through clean ingredients and sustainable packaging, but through the power of transparency, community, and action. My guest, Laney Crowell, is the founder and CEO of Saie, that's spelled S-A-I-E, a brand that's redefining what clean beauty means. From the Saie Climate Initiative to the Saie Way Docuseries, her leadership shows how a beauty brand can serve people and planet all at once with high-performing products and authentic impact. Join me in welcoming her. Hi, Laney. So good to meet you.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
You know, you've described growing up with a mindset of treating the earth like your own body. Can you share how that shaped your early relationship with beauty and sustainability?
Of course. So I started a makeup brand with a really big mission of creating beauty that's better. And I mean that in all sorts of ways. I mean that in terms of the ingredients that are in our products and how they affect your body, to the footprint that we leave with the impacts that we have and the packaging we use, and a really sensitive body, just like I think our planet. And I'm instantly affected by products that I put on my skin. And I think about that with all the little choices that we make in our personal lives and how the planet is then affected. So my mom is actually visiting me right now, and I live in Sag Harbor and outside of New York City. And my mom was and is an environmentalist and is very passionate about living a life that has as little impact as possible. And she taught me about that from a really young age. I was born in Colorado. We lived in a little town called Golden, and I grew up in the trees. And so, even though my mom joined the Foreign Service and we moved when I was quite young, I think where you begin always has an impact on who you are and what you create.
Well, here, Golden, Colorado, not too far from Denver either, right?
No, not too far. But I think it did end up being too far to commute every day with little kids. So we ended up moving down to Denver.
I can only imagine. What moment or experience inspired you to create Saie?
Gosh, I think so many little experiences, but when I worked in big beauty, I learned from the best of the best. I'm jealous of you getting your PhD. I say that I got my MBA when I was working in big beauty because I learned so much. But as a consumer, I felt like I wasn't being spoken to. I felt like the brands that were sustainable minded and good for my skin did not create butterflies in the way that I love to feel when I am purchasing something. And so I really created Saie to be a no compromise moment for the consumer, where they could buy their piece of beauty, which is their moment of self-care or their moment of luxury, and feel really excited by it and feel like they were giving themselves that treat while not having to feel guilty about it, because the ingredients are incredible for your skin. We are incredibly mindful. There's over 2,000 ingredients that we don't use, including dimethicone and silicones and forever chemicals. But, and we also, obviously, every decision we make is through the lens of how we can have the smallest impact on the planet possible. And for me, that was the impetus to create Saie. My community was encouraging me to do it. It's where the name of the brand comes from. You say it, we create it. But that no compromise mindset for me was what really was the spark to start Saie.
So how does organization really transform clean beauty into a truly climate conscious beauty? Because, well, you mentioned, for instance, forever chemicals. I think many of us don't even know how we get exposed. We just heard PFAS a few weeks ago as we talked with a researcher who specifically dove into how we get all of these exposures, a lot of which just comes from our drinking water. So how is it that you connect those dots and shift it from just being clean beauty, not to say just, but clean beauty, something that is truly climate conscious?
Well, beauty has a huge impact on the planet. There's 129 billion units of plastic created every year from the beauty industry. A lot of those units are sent to landfills or incinerators or end up in our oceans. So I actually started the Saie Climate Initiative, which was a result of a conversation I had with Sephora. We are exclusive at Sephora, and they are our true brand partners in every way. And they had some kind of feedback for me a few years ago where they said, nobody knows what you're doing. Nobody knows how much you're investing in sustainability. They don't know how thoughtful you are. They don't know all the decisions that you make that are much more expensive as a brand. It's not translating. And so I took all of the things that we were doing and I distilled them into 3 pillars within the Saie Climate Initiative. And that first pillar is that we are committed to being net zero carbon by 2039. And we have recently hired a head of impact and sustainability to help lead that charge. But that is obviously a company-wide initiative and goal. We were the first brand to sign the climate pledge with Amazon to make that commitment. We have committed to collecting 5 million pounds of plastic through our partners at Repurpose over the next 3 years along 4 different countries around the world. And those projects are absolutely incredible. They have a huge social impact as well as environmental impact. We employ over 2,000 women who lead those projects in collecting the plastic. And then we have an all-female led board that governs the Saie Climate Initiative. And so that was really important to me to have that be part of the brand. I loved the intro for the podcast. I think a lot about voting with my dollar. And I think that one thing that has been always top of mind for me is how do we have a brand that scales without doing damage to the planet? Just because by simply existing, we are therefore creating waste. How do we exist and scale and use that scale to have a positive impact? And so partnering with Sephora for me was really exciting with the Saie Climate Initiative. So this year we had our first moment where we included other brands as well. So that was a campaign called Planet Beautiful, and we had 4 brands join us. And to join the campaign, you had to contribute a significant contribution to collecting plastic through Repurpose. And next year, it's going to be 2 to 3 times the size. So I'm really excited about that.
I think it's so interesting how deep you've gone in this customer-oriented journey. And I know you're also extending that through the Saie Way Docuseries, where you invite your consumers behind the curtain. What did you learn about storytelling and transparency while creating this docuseries?
Well, we create it in real time in the sense that we do episode by episode. And the reason why I wanted to create this docuseries is because I myself wanted to learn more about some of the things that we were doing. So, for example, one of my favorite episodes is a trip that we took to a contract manufacturer of ours that creates our cartons. So we have these cartons that if you're watching the video, you can see I'm holding up. They are not coated, which makes it much easier to not only recycle, but our cartons can actually go into the compost. And I really love our partners because they're so thoughtful. The factory is run on 99% renewable energy. They have no paper that is not recycled. And so we took a trip there with our videographer and our in-house. Her name's Gloria. She's amazing. She does a lot of copy for us, but she herself is a filmmaker. And we did this great interview with the CEO, and we went to the factory and we took video there and really got to understand why they are the perfect partner for us. And that's obviously very focused on like the beauty business. We also have done episodes where we went to Colombia to see where the whale sanctuary is that we protect through repurpose. And I was very jealous of the team that got to go because I have two little kids and I, can't take every trip that I want to take. But being able to see the docuseries and see this incredible piece of water that we are protecting and the animals, and inside of it, the whales go to have their babies in this cove in Colombia. And the babies were eating so much plastic that they were actually dying before they could leave to then make their migration. And so plastic is collected every single day and recycled, and everything is tracked. So it's this really special moment for us also, of course, for our consumer to see what we're doing, but also for ourselves as a brand to have this almost like diary of what we're doing and investing in.
Now, I can imagine wanting to bring my children on that trip as well. And I will say sometimes you just have to prioritize those moments. Like I got to take my kids whale watching with Jean-Michel Cousteau. You just have to jump at some of these moments, as hard as it was, it was nice to bring them. And those
cool.
memories are things that they'll carry with them
forever.
Hopefully forever. Yeah. Hopefully they can remember. If nothing else, I captured it on some photos, so they'll be able to look back on that, right? They're only little once, so.
I know.
At any rate, I really love what you're doing to engage not only through your customer like Sephora, but also just with users thinking about how they experience the products. So much of what's been done in the beauty space when it comes to plastics is to shift to kind of a refill model. And some of those refill models are more impactful than others because they'll try to shift to just being, let's say, a cardboard and or metal and glass. So when people engage with the Saie product line, how is it different? How does it stack up to some of these things as you seek to do things like remove 5 million pounds of plastic from our environment?
Yeah, our packaging has been my trickiest hurdle and one that I'm struggling with to crack because in a lot of cases, plastic, even if it's the highest percentage PCR post-consumer recycled plastic possible, it still is plastic, and beauty is very difficult to recycle because the components are so small. So when you're in a recycling center, there's kind of these like fork-like things where the items fall through, and the bigger plastic remains and the smaller plastic falls through, and that smaller plastic doesn't get recycled. And beauty is typically one of those smaller components. So this has been really hard for us because a lot of our products can't be refilled for various reasons. And then on top of it, the consumer does not often engage in the refill system. So there's a lot of data behind refills and our consumers buying them. And for some reason, the consumer has not totally embraced the refill system for beauty. And I don't know why. I don't know if psychologically buying beauty is such a little treat moment that they want the full experience of getting the full thing. They don't want to get their refill. I myself even struggle to buy refills sometimes with beauty, whereas I don't struggle to get refills in other moments in my life. So I'm still trying to figure that out. We partner with Pact Collective to recycle our units, and you can mail things back to us. We'll recycle them properly through Pact. And in addition to that, Sephora actually has a Pact bin in every single Sephora nationwide. It's very interesting. I want to help educate around those Pact bins, which we're planning on doing in April. Well, we do it all the time, but we're going to do a big push in April because I think that's an incredible resource to know that you can take your empties to Sephora at any time. And there is a Pact bin there where you are ensuring that your items will be recycled properly. You do need to rinse or wipe them out as you do anything being recycled. Most people don't know that those Pact bins are there, but that is kind of where I'm at with our primary packaging right now.
Now, I wasn't familiar with Pact or that program at Sephora. Is that whether or not you've purchased them from Sephora, or is it only items that are from there?
Yeah, you can take anything in.
Cool. That's actually really cool. I think the arenas where I've engaged with refills more so have tended to be my favorite shampoo is a very expensive shampoo. It's called Nunu, and it's by Davines. It's like this
I love
Italian
that
brand,
brand. They're
right?
Italian.
Yes, I know. And
Yes.
they're a B Corp and they were working to reduce their plastic, but it's the one thing that makes my hair feel like it's just soft, and I have some gray, but it doesn't get too wiry because, like, you get that random stray hair or whatever, and that doesn't happen as long as I'm using their shampoo and conditioner. But they have a very large bottle that you can buy as a refill and then just keep refilling the one that you have in your shower. So it uses far less plastic. And then
Yes.
I don't run out and end up in a situation where, oh crap, I ran out. I can refill it, right? So I like that. And I think that's the only space I've really fully engaged with something that has a reduced packaging. And the only other space is that I don't use any bottled soaps. I'm like, why don't people just use bar soap? Like,
No.
it makes no sense to me.
I've actually wanted to create a bar soap, even though, say, we make makeup and bar soap doesn't make any sense. I just love bar soap for exactly that reason. And I think talking about shipping essentially water is something very important for people to think about. Because not only shipping that water, you're also purchasing that water.
You're purchasing that water. It weighs more. It costs more to ship. It's a larger carbon footprint. It's hard to recycle all of your detergents, all these things. So it's much easier to get those plastics out of your life,
Yeah.
right? You can use a tablet or a powder dishwasher soap, tablet or powder dishwasher, or like laundry soap, something like that.
We use Blue Land, which we love.
Yeah, I use that too. So, they have a refill model. So that is also like they give you a tin and then you have a paper bag that you get as refill model. So that can work. But I agree with you. I haven't seen much in the beauty space, if anything. I have seen Gabriel Cosmetics that's offered in health food stores, has little refills for their eyeshadows and things like that. But often the stores don't even inventory them. So it's, I think, one part access, but also you end up, if you use an eyeshadow for 5 years, the case gets cracked. You're not going to just replace it. I don't go through my eyeshadow that quick. I've got like palettes that are mismatched, and it's just like, well, you hold on to it until it's no longer useful. But almost all of them are not recyclable. So it's just like even the type of plastic they're made from is not something that's typically recycled. Does that mean that Pact is able to work with some of those difficult to recycle
Yes.
firms as well?
Yes.
Okay.
And they're amazing at that. And, I totally agree with you on the fact that you're then, as a brand, you then have double inventory, to your point about you go for your refill and it's not even there. So, the refill model in makeup, especially because in makeup, you have so many shades, you have so many SKUs. It's tough. I do think plastic alternatives, packaging in glass or aluminum are kind of the best bet when it comes to whether you're choosing between refill or not refill.
Okay, great. I'd like to pivot to talking a bit about industry and your regenerative thinking, the thinking that you brought to your business. From your perspective, what's the biggest misconception about sustainability in the beauty industry?
Yeah. I think the biggest misconception is that you can just put anything in the recycling bin and that it gets recycled. And that is just not the case, especially in beauty because of the size of the components. And what I struggle with is cleaning the component. So you do need to clean the component before you can put it in the packed bin, or the recycling bin. And as we all know, such a small portion of things get recycled. So I think that is all a huge, huge hurdle for the beauty industry at large. And we actually were the first brand to sign the climate pledge with Amazon. And we, leading that beauty charter for them, we have had some really amazing opportunities. And one of which was that we were able to hold a conference during Climate Week in New York, where we invited brands to come and learn about how to measure your carbon, how to think about circularity, how to tackle the issues that we're all thinking about as brands, but feeling daunted by. And that was really cool in the sense that, look, we all have these challenges, but let's come together and try to think about how we can be better and how we can make a difference.
Now, I know you've really talked about the balance of trying to get the packaging right and also create a sustainable brand at the same time, one that is high end and that commands attention and that can work on specialized projects like the ones you're doing. How do you balance innovation, high performance formulas, and packaging with this sort of sustainability principles that demand restraint and longevity in a way?
I think because I'm so passionate about it and I'm the founder and CEO, everybody at the brand is very on board. And every decision that we make, we are weighing, the ingredients that are in the packaging. I mean, the ingredients that make up the formula, the components of the primary packaging and what those are made of, the secondary packaging. We think about all of it, and especially freight. So freight is like a really big one for probably all brands, but for beauty, we want to be shipping by the ocean as much as possible versus via air. And that's kind of just the tip of the iceberg in terms of all of the decisions that we make for every single product that we launch. I have a product developer that describes working at Saie as the Olympics of product development because we are so strict about the ingredients that we do and don't use. And then in turn, simultaneously, we are so focused on high performance. So I'm looking for not the formulas that we launch. I want them to perform the same or better than anything that's not clean, which is really difficult because when you are able to work with silicones or you're able to work with synthetic polymers or you're able to work with basically like those plastics, you're able to do things that, I can't do at Saie because we don't use those ingredients. I think a big part of our success has been that in place of those synthetic polymers or in place of those silicones, we have used ingredients that are really good for your skin. So people always say to me after they start using Saie, they're like, my skin looks so much better. My skin is so happy. And that's because we're hydrating the skin, we're nourishing the skin, we're repairing the skin, we're brightening. And that's all just part of the benefit of the formula, and how we're able to get it be really high performance. People always describe our formulas as melting into the skin. And that's because we actually are really penetrating the skin barrier. We're not just sitting on top of your skin because we have all those skincare ingredients in our formulas.
Now, I've seen quite a few brands of late market themselves as helping to tighten skin around the eyes or reduce fine lines and wrinkles. And I can't even understand half the ingredients that are in these formulas. It's like, I'm sure that some of this is essentially spackle for aging skin. And I've even heard it called such by interview with Cher before, just like, oh, well, this face, I mean, I've had all sorts of work done, but they essentially spackle my face and then put the makeup on. And I know that there's some truth to some of that. I wonder what your comment would be and how, let's say, the products that you produce are also helpful for people who have the fine lines and wrinkles or aging skin.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to ingredients and whether you can or can't pronounce them, I always make sure to take that with a huge grain of salt because there's lots of ingredients that are fantastic for your skin and safe for the planet that you can't pronounce. But I think that our formulas are very expensive, and that's because we invest in the ingredients. And we will always choose an ingredient that is better for your skin versus either doing nothing for your skin or being harmful for your skin. And that is almost always a more expensive choice to make as a brand. But we believe that by investing in those ingredients, we then will in turn have that repeat purchase and that loyalty from our consumer. Because when you're using a product with jojoba esters and shea butter and licorice root extract and hyaluronic acid, you are going to have that plumping and that natural hydration that your skin loves. And the products you're seeing marketed, I don't know, there's lots of innovation happening. I think there's what you were talking about is probably a more true skincare product that's speaking about like a retinol or some like very active ingredient. And, we're a makeup brand. Yes, our ingredients are very skincare focused, but because my skin is so sensitive and I'm very acne prone, we're very careful about the active ingredients that we use because you can do a lot of damage to your skin by using something that is too active or too exfoliating or too stripping for your skin.
100%. I mean, I consider my skincare regimen somewhat basic, but recently discovered a brand that I love for lotions, night creams, things along these lines. The Organic Skin Company. You're probably familiar with them. The
Your
Organic Skin Company.
organic skin company?
Yeah, TOSC is like the brand
Okay,
acronym.
I'll check it out.
But they pride themselves on producing products that are more regenerative and that also support aging skin. I'm 49 now, so I do have some fine lines. And what I've noticed is the makeups that I used to use don't work as well on my skin anymore as I have
Yes.
more just of that delicate skin around the eye starts to appear kind of dry if I use them.
Mhm.
And so I've gone back to using what I feel like are ancient for me, but mineral makeups, and they seem to work better. As long as I'm putting it on top of like a really nice skin cream or something like that, it just glides nicely on and doesn't seem to settle too much or give me more wrinkles or settle in a weird way and show creases and things like that.
Well, I'm excited for you say because I think we really excel at that. I think that
Mm.
our formulas are so hydrating, even our powders. So we recently launched our baked collection, which was really inspired by not wanting what you're talking about, not wanting that cakiness, not wanting something to settle into my fine lines. And so
Mhm.
we actually, the way the product is made is in Italy, and they're just such true artisans in Italy.
100%. Yeah, especially in things like fragrance and
I
yeah,
know it's
these
so
things.
beautiful when you hear them speak about things, and the way this formula is created is it's basically a dough is made just like you would bake a bread. And in that dough, we infuse hyaluronic acid and jojoba esters and these really hydrating ingredients. And then it's rolled out and placed on these terracotta discs. And all of the excess is then rolled up and used in the next batch. And because it's cut like cookies almost on these terracotta discs. And then it's put into the oven and it's baked where we infuse humidity into the oven.
Hmm.
And so the formula is baked in the oven. And when it comes out, it's so lightweight that it almost feels like suede. It's why I named it super suede. And it's because it's so lightweight, it doesn't settle into your fine lines. It doesn't feel like anything. It doesn't look like anything, which to me is always the goal. Like I don't want it to look like I have powder on my skin, which is very aging. It's never a good look.
Yeah, you don't want to look cakey or overly, what do you call it? Like matte, you know?
Yeah. No, that's not the vibe.
A little of the youthful luster is a good thing. That's right. Now, you've said your daughters are a big part of your why. I can imagine so. I'm only a mom of boys, so I don't have some of the same thoughts, I think. But I'd love for you to talk about what you hope your work inspires for them and their generation to believe or do differently.
Mm-hmm. It's such a big conversation, big question. I have two little girls, Isabella and Rosie. Isabella's 8 and Rosie is 5. And they are my everything. And I work from home most of the time, so I get to spend a lot of time with them. I just adore them. And I think a lot about kind of all aspects of working. So there's the fact that I'm working, so I don't get to do everything that I want to do with them. I don't get to be at pickup every day. I don't get to go to their activities with them every day. Actually, most days I don't get to do that. I see them when they come home for dinner. And the fact
Life
that,
of a working mother, Laney, I feel you.
yeah, it's a tough one. And the way that I find solace in that is that what I'm doing is hopefully inspiring them to create change as well. We talk a lot in our house about taking action. And, I find it very annoying when people complain about something and are not taking action around it. And not only do I find it annoying, but I find it taking action to be the antidote to my anxiety and my depression around the environment. So, how do we take action daily? And my action is through Saie primarily. Obviously, we have lots of local things that we're doing as well for the environment. And I involve my kids in those. Like we just did a eelgrass event, sow eelgrass into burlap that then gets planted in our waterways. But I think they see me taking action every day through Saie. I'm on the Time 100 list this year, and I showed them the magazine that arrived, and they said, "Well, why are you in the magazine?" And I got to tell them why, which is because of everything that we're doing at Saie for the environment and the fact that we take action daily. And so, they're a big part of my why, kind of in every way. Yeah. And then, of course, I just hope that I'm able to inspire the beauty industry to take more action and have not only as smallest footprint as possible, but to really leave the planet better than we found it. And I have a lot of climate anxiety, and especially around my kids. And so if I'm able to achieve that, I hope that I can leave the planet better for them.
Yeah, well, it's a commendable quest. I have in my notes here that you've described beauty as a form of activism. This will be the second time I have interviewed somebody on this show specifically about that topic, beauty as activism. One is actually a brand called Lip Revolt, and they exclusively do lipsticks and donate money to different cause partnerships, but mostly around equality. And so it's just a really beautiful message that we can turn the things that we love into activism, that we can do things better than what has been done before, that we can forge new partnerships with people like Sephora and a pact program so that they can recycle things that would otherwise be difficult to recycle. All of those things are important. So your own daily action is going to have an impact, and your daughters will see that. This is part of inspiration, and you don't know how far that will go because they're going to talk about it with their friends as they grow. And I just want to say that I feel like that is probably one of the most important contributions you can make to their healthful raising. So great work.
Thank you.
Now, what keeps you motivated when progress can feel slow and challenging? Everybody faces this in entrepreneurship. You run into stumbling blocks or hurdles that feel sometimes unsurmountable. So I'd love to know what keeps you going when you feel like you're running up against a roadblock.
Trying to think if I've felt that way. I started Saie, I think it was about 4 months before COVID. And I think in a lot of ways, I have felt like I've been running, trying to catch a runaway train ever since that. We've had such incredible exponential growth that there's been, in some ways, like not enough time to think, not enough time to dwell on something not working because I just am on to the next. And I think that's been a big part of what has made being an entrepreneur so much fun for me, is that there isn't a lot of time to dwell on anything or get too frustrated because also there's just a lot of balls in the air. I think, when I do feel stuck, I try not to go on social media. I think that that is something that really affects my mental health in ways that I don't even realize. I try to walk every day. I find that walking in nature really unsticks a block for me in the way that I think, in the way that I'm processing, in the way that, my mental patterns are holding. And then I think lastly, and I've talked about this before, I listen to a lot of books on positive thinking. And even if I have listened to something, one book 100 times, when I listen to it, I'll find something different each time.
Yeah, that is one of the reasons I absolutely love audiobooks too, because I do the same thing. I'll go back to them. And one of my sources of inspiration for a long time has been this book, The Blue Mind, which I'll encourage you to read because it's so good.
Okay.
It's available as both an audiobook read by the author and essentially is about a blue mind way of thinking, which is almost like open ocean way of thinking. But the subtitle for the book I'm going to bring up. It's by Dr. Wallace J. Nichols, who is sadly recently deceased, but he wrote the book Blue Mind, the surprising science that shows how being near, in, on, or underwater can make you happier, healthier, more connected, and better at what you do.
Oh, I can't wait to read it.
It's an incredible book. And he is an incredible storyteller. He's a marine biologist, or was, I should say.
Oh, wow.
I did have a chance to interview him on this show before he passed. And his audiobook version, he read himself. And it's a way in which I connect back to him and did connect back to him through my grief of having lost this incredibly impactful, bright, intelligent, beautiful person from my local community too, But yeah, he's something else. And so I encourage everybody here who hasn't listened to that podcast episode, go back to it. But this book is like one of those things that feeds my soul.
Yeah.
Because those blue mind moments we can find in every day. And he would often just have a pocket full of blue marbles. And when somebody did something nice around him, he would give them a blue moment, a blue mind example. And if you hold that little blue ball up to like the sky, I mean, it's basically a representation of Earth.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Just a beautiful idea. Yeah. All right. Well, I have a couple final questions for you. If you could shift one belief across the entire beauty industry, what would it be?
That it's not possible to be a sustainable brand and be profitable.
Agreed. Finally, when you think about the world you want to help create, what does Planet Beautiful look like to you?
I mean, I definitely dream of my childhood a lot. Obviously, the climate had already started shifting when I was, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. But maybe there weren't as many impacts as there are now. And I spent a lot of time growing up snorkeling and scuba diving. And the ocean was such a miraculous, wonderful, colorful wonderland. And I dream of being able to do that again and see that again. And, when I go snorkeling now, it's almost so sad that I can't do it because of how dead our oceans are. So yeah, I dream of things being the way they were.
Well, that brand of nostalgia is something I also feel. And anybody who has been a scuba diver for more than 20 years would also understand that. I've been diving since the late 90s. So as it stands, the sorts of changes that you've noticed, I'm sure I have too. But I will tell you, there are spots around the globe that are rebounding, and the Ocean Futures.
Tell me where you like to go.
Okay, I will. The Ocean Futures Society, which is actually led by Jean-Michel Cousteau, right? They will share with you the bounty of Santa Barbara Channel Islands, just as an example. And there, now we're talking cold water diving, so you'd have to wear, wetsuit and, not as much in the vacation diving mode, but Santa Barbara Channel Islands have a resurgence of life in a way that they've just been able to really rebound. The number of whales, dolphins, and other species in their waters is incredible. They've successfully helped to mitigate the creep of the sea urchins. Like there's this whole cycle that follows in the colder waters where sea urchins will eat the balls of roots at the base of kelp and it will destroy kelp forests, right? So you have to have a balance of sea otters and other animals that eat the urchins in order to keep things good. And I've been on liveaboard boat dives in the area and also recently explored from, above the water, the whole Ocean Future Society on their crew as a part of their crew. And it was just incredible. So there are spots around the globe where life is still very much thriving. When I travel to Hawaii and other spaces like that, though, I am also seeing some of the coral reef bleaching just from getting too warm. But that doesn't mean it's all that way. I found that the island of Kauai and also Maui still have some really healthy reefs. And so you can get to them and enjoy them even from the shore. I have not been to Oahu in a long time, so I can't tell you there. But people are also reporting, similar thriving ecosystems even in many spots in Mexico. So you can't let all the bad news keep you down all the time. There are also other species of coral coming in. And reef restoration projects are underway in many spots around the globe too. It doesn't mean that the diversity is what it once was, but they're working to do everything we possibly can. The writing on the walls, though, as I think you've alluded to, is that with our warming oceans and increasing acidity, a lot of these spaces are becoming less diverse and less beautiful, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But come to Monterey Bay, we'll go diving together and you'll see some beautiful forests underwater. It looks just like going inside the Monterey Bay Aquarium, but you get to experience it firsthand. Now, Laney, I wonder if there was a question that I haven't asked that perhaps you wish I had. You could have the floor to ask and answer that question, or you could leave our community with some closing thoughts. The choice is yours.
I'm definitely excited for your audience to hear about Saie and know about Saie and just know that there are brands that are not only thoughtful and about the environment, but also skin and look and feel and experience. And I'm excited for people to get to recycle their products at Sephora and, go in store and meet someone that works at Saie and can tell you about how beautiful our products are, and know that there are those of us out there who are fighting the good fight, even though we're on TikTok and Instagram and having a good time doing it. And I can't wait to hear what everyone thinks about our products.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Laney. And thank you for leading with intention and showing that beauty can be both glamorous and deeply good. Thank you.
Thank you. That was so much fun.
To all of you, to our listeners, to our watchers on YouTube, on social platforms, you can explore Sustainability Journey and The Saie Way docuseries directly at saiehello.com. And that's SAIE hello.com. If you value open dialogue, sustainability, and social equity, I also want to close with this. My cause partner as we head forward from November through 2026 is Prescott College. I personally am donating $60 a month every month to support their 60th anniversary, and I'd like to invite all of you to support our newest cause partner as well. It's an institution that stands for diversity, inclusion, and the freedom to learn. Visit caremorebebetter.com to learn more, subscribe, and connect with me directly. And remember, every choice we make, from what we put on our skin to how we live each day, can be an act of care for people and planet alike. Because when we care a little bit more, we can create a better future together. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Care More, Be Better, a podcast for social good. To make sure you never miss an episode, subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts, and share with your friends to help us reach more people and spread more social good.